A man named Dennis wrote one comment. 58 years old, retired electrician, 22 years married. He said, "My first Saturday alone, I made coffee at 9:47. Sat on the back porch, didn't move for 2 hours. Nobody needed anything. That was it. That was the whole comment." It got over 900 likes in 48 hours. Not because it was dramatic, because it was the most specific description of a feeling that thousands of men have had and never once heard named out loud. In this video, I want to talk about that feeling, what it actually is, where it comes from, and why the men who are living it say it's the most honest life they've ever had. Later in this video, I'm going to walk you through what a specific day actually looks like for men living this, hour by hour, detail by detail, because nobody ever shows you that. They tell you you'll be lonely. They don't show you the Tuesday morning at the diner, the Wednesday with the guys, the Thursday evening where nobody in the house needs you to manage their emotions. And I'm going to share a comment from a man named Moongrim that stopped this entire community cold. He described something he lost around year 3 of his marriage. Didn't know it was gone. Got it back the first week he was alone. When I tell you what it was, you're going to know exactly what I mean. I'll get to it. Stay with me. Let me describe something. And I want you to tell me if this is your life. You wake up on a Saturday morning, before your eyes are fully open, before you've thought a single conscious thought. There's a read you're already doing. A scan. What's the temperature in the house? Did something happen last night that carried over? Is she already up? And if she is, what does that mean this morning? You haven't said a word yet. You haven't moved. And you're already working. That's not marriage. That's a job. And the thing is, you didn't notice it becoming a job. It happened the way most things happen. Slowly, then all at once. One Saturday, you're still going to the OTB with Frank and Eddie. And then one Saturday, you're not. And you're not sure exactly when that stopped. One winter, you've still got the card nights in the garage. And then you don't. And there was no big conversation about it. It just got edited out. The fishing rod in the basement. The road trips to see the game in person. The wow on the back porch after dinner that became, somewhere around year 4, ignoring her. Gone. And the thing about slow edits is that you adapt to them. You stop noticing what's missing because you're busy managing what's there. Your own internal life, your thoughts, your rhythms, your preferences on a Saturday. They just get quieter and quieter until one day you're not even sure what you actually like anymore. You know what she likes. You know what the house needs. You know what keeps the weekend from becoming a fight. But what you actually want on a Saturday morning? You'd have to think about it. That's what Dennis was describing. Not freedom, exactly. Just the absence of that scan. That automatic before coffee assessment of what the day was going to cost him. Something shifts. And it doesn't shift back. There's a man in this community who goes by Red Soul 61. He's 63. Spent 18 years married. Ran his own landscaping business. Put 2 kids through school. He commented on a video a few months back. And I keep coming back to what he wrote. He said, "Solitude does not mandate loneliness. Peace and quiet does not mandate boredom." Read that again. Because what he's pushing back against is the thing everyone says when they find out you're living alone. Don't you get lonely? As if solitude and loneliness are the same thing. As if a man alone in his house is necessarily a man suffering. Red Soul isn't suffering. He told us what his mornings look like. Up at 6:30, coffee black. Sits at the kitchen table with the window open. Hears the birds. Thinks about whatever he wants to think about. Some mornings that's a lot. Some mornings it's almost nothing. The point isn't what he thinks about. The point is that nobody else is setting the temperature. He said he used to watch the clock on Sunday evenings. Dreading Monday wasn't the problem. He liked his work. He was dreading the specific emotional weight of Sunday night in that house. The closing down, the unspoken accounting of whether the weekend went well or didn't. He doesn't watch the clock anymore. That's the whole argument. Right there. Now let me give you a number. Because this conversation isn't just emotional. It's mathematical. And the math is something most men never sit down and actually do. The average single man over 55 spends around $4,600 a month. The average married couple spends around $7,400. That's not $2,800 more. Split between 2 people, That means the marriage costs the average man roughly $33,000 a year more than living alone. Over 10 years, $330,000. And that's the average. That's before you count the specific invisible costs, the ones that show up in your bank statements but never get named in any conversation. There's a man in this community, Gary K., 61, pension of $3,200 a month. For the last 6 years of his marriage, he was always behind. Not broke, but always one emergency from a difficult conversation. Her mother needed the roof done. The vacation they had to take because her sister was getting married in Scottsdale and not going wasn't an option. The gifts for people he barely knew, every birthday, every Christmas, every graduation. He tracked it after the divorce. Not to be bitter, to understand. He found $1,900 a month that had been leaving his account for years for things he never once chose. He puts $1,100 into savings now, every month, without trying. Last year, 18 days in Portugal. Year before, 6 weeks in Southeast Asia. 1 carry-on bag. He ate what he wanted, walked when he wanted, sat in a square in Lisbon for 3 hours because the light was doing something interesting and nobody was waiting on him. He wrote 1 line about it in the comments. It got over 1,000 likes in 24 hours. I'll share it later. It's the kind of line where you read it and then you just sit there for a second. Drop a comment below if you felt that financial shift. I want to know what it felt like the first time you realized the money that used to disappear just stopped disappearing. What did you do with the first month where you came out ahead without trying? Let me show you what this life actually looks like. Not the concept of it, the actual thing. Tuesday morning, Big Jim, 64, retired pipe fitter. He backs the trailer down the boat ramp at 6:15. Coffee in the cup holder, diner coffee, not the good stuff, but that's the point, that's the ritual. His dog Biscuit in the bow, rod in the water by 6:30. Phone in the truck. He's nowhere. Not because he's hiding, because there's nowhere he has to be until he decides there's somewhere he has to be. He might stay until 10. He might stay until 2. Biscuit knows the routine. The fish mostly don't cooperate, but Big Jim has said more than once that the fish aren't really the point. Wednesday evening. Red Soul 61 has a standing thing with 3 guys from his old crew, Frank, Gerald, and the man everyone calls Crowbar, because of a story from 1994 that he will not confirm or deny. They rotate houses, somebody's garage, card game, decent bourbon, bad jokes, no agenda. Nobody's wife is texting. Nobody has to be home by 11. They stay until they don't feel like staying anymore. Red Soul said he hadn't had a consistent night with those guys in almost a decade. Scheduling conflicts, her plans, the general administrative weight of a shared calendar. He got it back. That's not a small thing. Friday evening. Dennis, our man from the beginning, the one who sat on the back porch for 2 hours and has a specific Friday routine now. He cooks, not because he has to, because it turns out he actually likes cooking when there's no one grading him on it. He makes something that takes time, a proper braise or a slow pasta sauce, a bowl of his grandmother's soup that takes 4 hours and heats the whole kitchen. He eats it at the counter, watches something he actually wants to watch. Nobody changes the channel. Nobody needs the volume lower. He told us what he discovered about himself 2 months into living alone. He found out he likes silence, genuinely likes it. Spent 22 years in a house that was always carrying some kind of noise. Television for company, her phone calls in the other room, the ambient hum of someone else's emotional state. He thought he'd find the quiet unbearable. He said it felt like setting something heavy down. And then there are the small recovered things, the ones that got edited out so quietly you forgot they were yours. Moongrim, this is the man I mentioned at the beginning. He has been a member of this community for a while now. He's in his mid-60s, spent 40 years in a marriage that wasn't a bad marriage. He's clear about that. It just had a lot of rules he'd stopped noticing were rules. One of them was this. He talked to himself, always had, running commentary, working through problems out loud, answering his own questions. She found it strange. Didn't say much, but he knew. He stopped around year 3. 40 years went by. He didn't think about it once. First week in the apartment, he's in the kitchen making eggs. And he starts talking to himself about whether to add cheese. Full conversation. Out loud. Just like that, like no time had passed at all. He said he laughed for about 5 minutes straight. That's not a consolation prize. That is the destination. Now, let's talk about the thing nobody else will. Because there's a conversation you're going to have, maybe you've already had it, where someone who loves you, or things they do, looks at your life and tells you something is wrong with it. Your sister says, "Don't you want companionship?" Your buddy at work, the one who looks exhausted every single Monday, and the one who spends his lunch break in his car just to have 20 minutes that belong to him. He looks you dead in the eye and says, "Being alone is no way to live." And you're standing there thinking, "Brother, I'm watching your misery in real time, and you're telling me I have the problem." Here's what's actually happening in that moment. Your peace is a mirror, and they didn't ask to look into it. When a man who has quietly convinced himself that his situation is normal sees another man living differently, and looking fine, actually looking better, it creates a specific kind of discomfort. It's not concern for you. It's the first crack in a story he needs to keep telling himself. So they reframe what they see. They call it lonely. They call it giving up. They call it sad. Because the alternative, that you found something real and they're still waiting for it, is harder to sit with. You don't have to argue with them. You don't have to defend it. You can just live it. The living is the argument. Their discomfort is about them, not you. Earlier, I promised you Gary K. is lying. The one that got 1,000 likes in 24 hours. Here it is. It's amazing how much less money I need when I don't have a woman in my life. I'm going to let that breathe for a second. That's not bitterness. That's accounting. That's a man who did the math and reported what he found. The community responded the way they did because it said out loud, clearly, without apology, without explanation, the thing that hundreds of men had been turning over privately for months or years. It's amazing how much less I need. And then there's Moongrim's line, the one I held back, because it deserved its own moment. After he told the story about talking to himself in the kitchen, the eggs, the cheese, at the 5 minutes of laughing, he ended his comment with this: "The nookie was nice, but it ain't worth the price." That's it. That's the whole thing. 40 years of lived experience compressed into 11 words. The community went quiet for a second, and then it just opened up. Men sharing their own versions of the same accounting, their own prices, their own things that were nice but weren't worth what they cost. That comment became a thread. That thread went on for days. So let me bring this back to Dennis. Back to 9:47 on a Saturday morning, back to the back porch. The coffee, the 2 hours where nobody needed anything. He didn't travel. He didn't spend money. He didn't do anything you'd put in a highlight reel. He just sat there with his coffee going warm in his hands, and he let the morning be exactly what it was. That's what this is. That's the thing underneath all the numbers and the stories and the comments from men in this community. It's not about the fishing trips or the Portugal or the card game in somebody's garage. Though those things are real and they matter, it's about the scan, the one you run before your eyes are open, the one that measures the temperature of the house before you've had a single thought of your own. When that scan stops, when there's nothing to read except your own mourning, something in you exhales that hasn't exhaled in years. You don't know how long you've been holding it until you let it go. If you've already made this choice, you know. You know exactly what I'm describing, and you felt it the first morning you had it. Maybe it was coffee on a back porch. Maybe it was eggs and a conversation with yourself about cheese. Maybe it was backing a trailer down a boat ramp at 6:15 with your dog and nowhere to be. It feels like something settling. And if you're sitting on the edge of it right now, still in it, still managing it, still running that scan every morning, I'm not here to tell you what to do. That's your life and your call. But I'll tell you what the men in this community keep saying, the ones who made it to the other side. They all say the same thing. They wish they'd found it sooner. Drop your age in the comments. Tell me what your Saturday mornings look like now, or what you want them to look like. I read every single one. If you know a man who needs to hear this today, send it to him. That's how this community grows, one man at a time. See you in the next one. Take care.